Hello everyone, before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's dive into today's story. It was a quiet Tuesday afternoon when Emily Taylor, wearing a simple black apron and a pair of well-worn sneakers, hurried through the back door of the cozy corner bakery. It wasn't the life she had envisioned for herself when she was younger, but it was hers. She had always dreamed of owning a small cafe, maybe even an art gallery one day, but those dreams seemed distant. Right now, she was doing what she had to in order to pay the bills. The bakery was cozy, as the name suggested, but it was also far from glamorous. The warm, comforting smell of freshly baked bread and sweet pastries filled the air, and the soft clink of utensils on the counter mixed with the murmur of regular customers who greeted her by name. Yet, Emily couldn't shake the feeling that this was not where she truly belonged. She pulled her apron tight around her waist and wiped her hands on the fabric, noticing once again how faded and worn it was. One day, she thought to herself, this will change. I'll find my way out of here. But for now, she continued to smile at customers, offering them their favorite pastries as she checked them out. This was the routine of her life. Working at the bakery kept her afloat, but it wasn't enough to fill the emptiness she sometimes felt inside. She was a small-town girl with big city dreams, but she had learned to keep them tucked away, hidden like the name embroidered on her apron. Just as she was beginning to put away the last of the morning's dirty dishes, the door to the bakery jingled, and a man walked in. He was tall, well-dressed in a sharp navy suit, his dark hair perfectly styled, and his eyes concealed behind a pair of sunglasses. Emily looked up briefly, not thinking much of it at first. People came and went all the time. But as the man approached the counter, she noticed something unusual. He didn't seem to be looking at the menu or even considering the cakes and pastries laid out in front of him. Instead, he stood there, his gaze focused on Emily with an intensity that made her heart skip a beat. "Excuse me," he said in a deep, almost commanding voice. "Could I get a coffee, please?" His voice, while polite, held an air of confidence that made Emily feel both nervous and curious. She quickly nodded and turned to prepare his order. Her hands were a little shaky as she filled the coffee cup, unsure of what was happening. There was something about him, something that made her feel out of place in her own bakery. Was it his confidence? His presence? Or perhaps the quiet, almost mysterious way he stood there, waiting for his coffee as if time didn't matter to him? "That'll be 3.50, Emily said, handing him the cup. The man took out a crisp $5 bill and slid it across the counter. As Emily reached to give him his change, he stopped her with a gentle motion. "Keep it," he said with a smile, his voice warm now, almost friendly. "You seem like you could use it more than I do." Emily was taken aback for a moment. It wasn't every day that a customer gave you a tip without even asking for change. She managed a small, surprised smile and nodded. "Thank you," she said, still unsure of what to make of the interaction. But before she could say another word, the man turned and left the bakery, disappearing into the busy street outside. Emily stood there for a moment, the unexpected kindness of the stranger lingering in her mind. She hadn't expected anything like that today, and now, as she looked down at the crumpled 1.50 bill in her hand, she felt a sense of warmth she hadn't felt in a while. Maybe it was just the coffee or maybe it was the simple act of generosity from someone who had no reason to be kind to her, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something had just shifted inside of her. As she went back to her duties, Emily couldn't help but wonder who was that man. And why did his words feel like a small spark of something bigger? She couldn't know it yet, but that brief encounter would mark the beginning of a journey she never could have imagined. The next day, Emily arrived at work feeling slightly different. Maybe it was the unexpected generosity from the previous day, or maybe it was the thought of the man who had come into her bakery. She found herself glancing toward the door more often, half expecting him to walk in again, but as the hours passed, the usual steady rhythm of the bakery returned, and her attention shifted back to the job at hand. The warm oven air filled the space, and the comforting scent of bread and pastries helped to settle her thoughts. But something had shifted in her. There was a glimmer of hope that she hadn't felt in a long time. It was near the end of her shift when she saw him again. The same tall figure, the same sharp navy suit. He walked into the bakery as if nothing had changed. Emily's heart skipped a beat. This time, he didn't go to the counter right away. Instead, he stood by the window, looking out over the street. Emily couldn't help but stare for a moment, unsure if he had seen her yet. The bell above the door jingled softly as he approached the counter. "Hi again," he said, his voice low but friendly, like they were picking up a conversation they had just left off. "You were working yesterday, right?" His eyes locked onto hers, and for a moment Emily felt as though he could see right through her. She took a breath, trying to steady her nerves. "Yes, I was," Emily said, trying to sound casual, though her hands betrayed her. They were shaking slightly as she reached for the coffee cup. "What can I get you today?" she asked, focusing on her task, not sure whether she wanted to know more about him or not. He smiled, his expression relaxed. "I'll have the same again," he said, nodding toward the coffee. "And you can keep the change." His words seemed almost too easy, like he knew exactly what to say to make her feel comfortable. Emily poured the coffee, still unsure of what was going on, but somehow intrigued. He had a presence that was difficult to ignore, and his generosity the day before seemed to echo in her mind. As she handed him the cup, he surprised her again by speaking. "You know," he said, his voice quieter now, "I couldn't stop thinking about yesterday. You didn't have to be kind, but you were. Not many people would have done that. Not with everything you've got going on." He didn't look like he was simply making polite conversation. It was almost as if he was studying her, seeing something in her that she didn't quite understand. Emily blinked, taken aback by his honesty. "Well, I don't know," she said, her voice wavering. "It wasn't much, really, just a couple of dollars." She felt herself stammering, unsure of what to say next. He gave her a soft, almost reassuring smile. "Still," he said, "it meant something to me." He paused, letting the words settle before continuing. "Actually, there's something I'd like to talk to you about. It's a little unconventional, but I think it could benefit you." Emily furrowed her brows, wondering where this conversation was going. She wasn't sure what he meant by unconventional, but something in his voice told her this wasn't just idle small talk. He was serious. "What do you mean?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. He leaned in slightly, as though to keep the conversation private, though the bakery was still quiet at this hour. "I've been looking for someone like you to help with something important," he said. "I know this sounds strange, but I run a small company, and I'm in need of someone with your skills, someone who understands people, who's grounded. I've got a project in mind, and I could use your help." He paused. "Of course, it would pay well. And it would be a chance to get out of this place, if that's something you want." Emily's heart raced, and she felt her mind go blank. Was he serious? She didn't know what to say, but she couldn't deny the pull she felt toward this opportunity. It wasn't just the money, it was the idea of something more, something bigger than the bakery. For the first time in a while, she felt like she might actually have a chance to change her life. "I don't know," she said, still unsure. "I've never really done anything like that. I mean, I'm just a waitress." Her voice faltered, but the thought of escaping her current life was too tempting. The man smiled again, his expression softening. "I know what you do, Emily. But I've seen something in you. I think you have more potential than you realize. You don't need to be just a waitress. You could be so much more." He held her gaze for a moment, letting his words sink in. Emily swallowed hard. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. She wanted to say yes, but a part of her felt the weight of her current life, the bills, the uncertainty, the fear of stepping into something new. But as he stood there, waiting for her answer, she felt a sense of possibility. It wasn't just a job offer. It was a chance to change everything. She looked at him, her heart pounding in her chest. "I'll think about it," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "That's all I ask," he replied, his voice warm. "Take your time. But just know, the offer is on the table." He turned to leave, but then stopped, looking back at her with a faint smile. "And, by the way, I'm Liam. Liam Parker." He said his name with a quiet confidence, as if it meant something more than she could understand right now. "I'll be waiting for your answer." He walked out of the bakery, leaving Emily standing there, her mind swirling with thoughts of what could be. As she watched him leave, Emily couldn't help but feel that her life had just taken an unexpected turn. She didn't know if she was ready for what lay ahead, but she knew one thing: this was the opportunity she had been waiting for. The days that followed were a whirlwind of confusion and excitement for Emily. She couldn't stop thinking about Liam and his offer. Every time she walked through the bakery, the smell of fresh bread and pastries felt a little more suffocating. She found herself staring at the same customers, performing the same tasks, but all she could think about was what Liam had said. "You don't need to be just a waitress. You could be so much more." It was a thought she hadn't allowed herself to entertain before, but now it was all-consuming. Emily found herself questioning everything. Could she really leave this life behind? Was she really cut out for something bigger? The doubts started creeping in. She wasn't sure she could live up to the potential Liam saw in her. But at the same time, she couldn't ignore the feeling of possibility that came with the offer. What if this was her chance? What if she could finally break free from the cycle of endless work and never-ending bills? What if Liam was right? One afternoon, just as she was about to close up the bakery, her phone buzzed with a new message. It was from Liam. "I know you've probably got a lot on your mind, but I just wanted to check in. Let me know if you're interested in the opportunity. No pressure, of course. But I really believe this could be a great fit for you." She stared at the message for a long time, her finger hovering over the screen. Was this her moment? Was she ready to take the leap? After what felt like an eternity, she typed a response. "I'm interested. Let's talk more." Within minutes, Liam replied, and they set up a time to meet. Emily felt a mix of excitement and nervousness that she hadn't felt in years. She knew this could be the start of something life-changing, but she also knew it was a risk. She had no idea what Liam's company was about, or what exactly he wanted her to do, but there was something about his presence, his confidence, that made her believe in him. The meeting was set for the following morning at a coffee shop not far from the bakery. Emily arrived early, her heart pounding in her chest. She had dressed carefully, no more second-hand clothes today. She wore a simple blouse and jeans, but it was the first time in a long while that she felt a little out of place. She felt like she was about to step into a world that wasn't hers, but at the same time, she felt an excitement she couldn't shake. When Liam walked in, his presence filled the room. He was dressed casually today, but still looked effortlessly put together. He smiled at her as he approached, his gaze kind but also intense. He was different from anyone she had ever met. There was no arrogance in him, only a quiet confidence that made her feel like anything was possible. "I'm glad you came," he said, sitting down across from her. "I know this is a lot to take in, but I want you to know that I believe in you. More than you might believe in yourself right now." Emily smiled nervously, taking a sip of her coffee to steady her nerves. "I still don't know what this is exactly." "What do you need me to do?" she asked. Liam leaned forward slightly, his eyes locking onto hers. "I'm not just offering you a job, Emily. I'm offering you a chance to build something that matters. I've been looking for someone who has the ability to connect with people, to understand what they need. That's why I want you. I know you've got more to offer than you realize." His words hung in the air, and Emily felt a flicker of hope. Maybe he was right. Maybe she could do this. She had always wanted more than this small bakery, more than scraping by month to month. She had always dreamed of doing something that mattered. She wanted to make a difference. And here was an opportunity to do just that. "So, what's the catch?" Emily asked, her voice cautious but hopeful. "You've got me intrigued, but I need to know more." She could hear the doubt in her own voice, but it wasn't enough to scare her off. "Not yet." Liam chuckled softly, as if he'd been expecting that question. "No catch. But I do need someone who's willing to take risks, someone who's not afraid to step out of their comfort zone. You've already done that by just being here, Emily. And that's exactly the kind of person I need." Emily nodded slowly. This was it. She knew she had to make a decision soon. She had always been careful, too careful perhaps. But now, for the first time, she felt a spark of courage inside her. This could be her chance to change everything. "Okay," she said, taking a deep breath. "I'm in. Tell me what comes next." She could see the satisfaction in Liam's eyes, and for a moment, she allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, this was the beginning of something that could change her life forever. As they discussed the next steps, Emily felt a weight lifting from her shoulders. For the first time in a long time, she felt hopeful. She didn't know exactly where this path would lead, but for the first time, she believed it was a step toward something better. The following week, Emily was sitting at a desk in a sleek, modern office building completely different from the small bakery she had worked at for years. The walls were glass, offering a breathtaking view of the city's skyline, and everything in the office screamed success. She could hardly believe this was the same world she had once only dreamed of entering. She was still adjusting to the rhythm of this new life, trying to wrap her head around the fact that she had left everything behind, her old job, her small-town routine, for something entirely unknown. Emily had joined Liam's company, Parker Enterprises, and her new role was unlike anything she could have imagined. She wasn't just an employee, she was given real responsibilities, a voice in the decision-making, and an opportunity to make an impact. Her first task was a big one. She was assigned to oversee a new community outreach project, something that resonated deeply with her own values. She had always wanted to help people, to make a difference, and here was her chance. She wasn't entirely sure what to expect at first, but as the days passed, Emily found herself not only becoming more confident but also genuinely excited about the work. The people she worked with were smart, driven, and passionate about what they did, and there was something about the environment that made her feel like she was finally in the right place. Despite the high expectations and pressure, Emily began to realize that she was capable of more than she ever thought possible. But there was still something in the back of her mind that unsettled her. Liam. The man who had taken a chance on her. While their professional relationship seemed to be blossoming, she couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to him than met the eye. He was always kind, always supportive, but there was a quiet intensity to him that made her wonder what was truly driving him. One afternoon, Emily found herself sitting at her desk, going through a few reports for the outreach project, when Liam entered the office. He was dressed in his usual sharp suit, but today there was something different about him. Seemed distracted, his usual confident demeanor replaced by something else, something she couldn't quite put her finger on. He approached her desk with a serious expression. "Emily, can we talk for a moment?" he asked, his voice more somber than usual. She nodded, feeling a slight pang of nervousness in her chest. She followed him into one of the meeting rooms, and once the door was closed, Liam turned to face her. "I need to apologize," he began, his eyes not meeting hers at first. "I should have been more upfront with you. I know I offered you this opportunity without explaining everything, and for that, I'm sorry." Emily blinked, confused. "What do you mean?" she asked. Liam took a deep breath, his gaze finally meeting hers. "I didn't tell you the full story. The truth is, I didn't just hire you because I saw potential in you, though I did. The real reason I wanted you here is because of something personal. My company has been facing a lot of challenges lately, and I needed someone who could help us shift our focus, someone who could breathe new life into what we're doing. And when I met you, I knew you were the right person for that job. But I also knew it would be a challenge for you, for both of us." Emily felt a mix of emotions flood through her. She had thought Liam's offer was simply about professional growth, but now it seemed there were layers to this decision that she hadn't considered. She was both flattered and overwhelmed by the responsibility he had placed on her shoulders. "I appreciate your honesty," Emily said after a moment, trying to process everything he had just revealed. "But I need to know I am not just a pawn in this, am I?" Liam looked at her, his face softening. "No, Emily," he said quietly. "I never meant to make you feel that way. You're not just a means to an end. I see something in you. You're capable of leading something great, and I want to help you get there. But I also understand if this is too much for you. I don't want to push you into anything you're not ready for." His words were sincere, and Emily could hear the weight behind them. For a moment, she considered his offer and the position she was in. She had taken a leap of faith when she agreed to join his company, and now she felt like she was on the verge of something even bigger. But she also knew that there was a lot at stake. "I came here for a fresh start, Liam," Emily said, her voice steady. "And I want to make this work. I want to prove to myself that I can do something meaningful. But I need to know that we're in this together. I can't do this alone." She looked him in the eyes, her resolve firm. Liam nodded, a look of determination in his eyes. "We are in this together," he said softly. "And I believe in you, Emily. That's why I chose you. Don't doubt that for a second." The conversation shifted from doubts to plans for the future, and as they continued discussing the project, Emily realized that despite the uncertainty, she felt more alive than she had in a long time. This was the opportunity she had been waiting for, not just to prove herself, but to build something that mattered. And for the first time, she was starting to see the kind of future she had always dreamed of. As she walked back to her desk, she couldn't help but feel a renewed sense of purpose. The path ahead was still unclear, but now she had the confidence to walk it. She had Liam's support, and more importantly, she had found something in herself that she never knew existed. The days that followed felt like a blur for Emily. She threw herself into the new project, working tirelessly alongside Liam and the team. The more she learned about the company, the more she realized how much potential it had, and how much she could contribute. Despite the growing pressure, something inside her shifted. She wasn't just the girl who worked at a bakery anymore. She was someone who could make a difference, and she was starting to believe that. With every meeting, every small success, Emily felt herself growing into her role. She was no longer the quiet, unsure waitress she had been. She was becoming the woman Liam had seen in her from the start. It wasn't just the work that had changed Emily. Her relationship with Liam was evolving, too. What had started as a professional connection was slowly transforming into something deeper. They worked side by side every day, and as time went on, their conversations stretched beyond work. At first, Emily had kept her distance, unsure of what exactly Liam wanted from her. But he had always been patient, never pushing her, always letting her come to her own conclusions. It wasn't long before she found herself looking forward to their conversations. One evening, after a long day of meetings and planning, Liam invited Emily to join him for a casual dinner. He had been increasingly insistent lately, suggesting they meet outside the office more often. Emily wasn't sure what to expect, but she agreed, thinking it would be good to unwind after such an intense week. As they sat down in a quiet restaurant, their usual businesslike interactions faded into something more comfortable. "I have to admit," Liam said, breaking the silence as he took a sip of his wine, "I wasn't expecting this. When I hired you, I saw your potential, but I didn't expect you to step up so quickly." Emily smiled, a little embarrassed by the compliment. "Thank you," she said, feeling her heart warm. "I guess it's just the opportunity one needed. You've really given me a chance to prove myself." She paused, then added, "I never thought I'd be here, doing this. Honestly, I didn't think I was capable of it." Liam looked at her thoughtfully, setting his glass down. "You've always had it in you," he said, his voice soft but firm. "You just needed someone to believe in you. And I'm glad I was the one to do that." Emily looked at him, her mind racing with thoughts she hadn't allowed herself to entertain before. She had always admired Liam's confidence, his clear vision, and his unwavering belief in her. But hearing him speak like that, hearing him say he believed in her, it made something inside her stir. As the evening went on, their conversation shifted from work to personal topics. They talked about their pasts, their families, their dreams for the future. Emily found herself laughing more than she had in a long time, the weight of her worries lifting with each shared story. Liam, too, seemed more at ease, his usual guarded demeanor slipping away. Emily realized then that there was a side of him that not many people got to see, side that was vulnerable, just like everyone else. At the end of the evening, as they walked out of the restaurant together, Emily felt a strange sense of warmth. She hadn't expected to feel this way, but there was something about Liam that made her feel safe, like maybe she wasn't just another employee to him. Maybe she was more. They stood outside for a moment, the cool night air brushing against their skin, before Liam turned to her. "I'm glad you came tonight," he said, his tone sincere. "I know this is a lot for you, but I want you to know that I'm here whatever you need." Emily met his gaze, her heart fluttering in her chest. She had always been independent, but in that moment, she realized how much she valued the support he was offering. It was more than just professional advice or business strategy, it was something deeper. Something more personal. "Thank you, Liam," she said, her voice quieter now. "It means a lot to me." They stood there for a few more seconds, just looking at each other, before Emily reluctantly broke the silence. "I should probably head home," she said, not wanting the evening to end but knowing she needed rest. Liam nodded, his expression soft. "Of course," he replied. "But I'm looking forward to working with you more on this project. We're just getting started." With that, they parted ways, but Emily couldn't shake the feeling that this was a turning point. She had come to the company looking for a fresh start, but now it seemed like she was on the verge of something much more meaningful, something that could change everything. As she walked back to her apartment, Emily's mind was buzzing with thoughts of the evening. It was strange how quickly things had changed, from the bakery to this high-powered world of business, and now, she was starting to feel like she belonged. And maybe, just maybe, Liam wasn't the only one who believed in her. She could feel it now, deep inside, a sense of purpose that she had never felt before. The weeks that followed were a blur of progress and personal growth for Emily. She had settled into her role at Parker Enterprises with an ease that surprised even her. Each day brought new challenges, but Emily had found a rhythm, one that felt right, one that pushed her further than she ever thought possible. The community outreach project she was working on had already started to gain traction, and her ideas were beginning to take shape in ways that could make a real impact. As the project grew, so did Emily's confidence. She was no longer the quiet, unsure woman who had first walked into the office. Now, she was a force to be reckoned with, making decisions, influencing outcomes, and proving to herself that she was capable of much more than she had ever believed. Liam's belief in her had been the spark she needed, but Emily was realizing that it was her own drive, her own ambition, that was pushing her forward. But despite all of the progress she was making professionally, there was still a lingering question in the back of her mind about Liam. Over the past few weeks, their relationship had evolved from strictly professional to something more personal. They had shared more dinners, more late-night conversations, and Emily couldn't deny that there was a connection building between them. But what did it mean? Was it just the proximity of working together, or was there something deeper here? She found herself wondering if he felt the same way. Was he just being supportive, or was he starting to see her in a different light? One afternoon, as Emily was finishing up a meeting, Liam sent her a message asking if she could meet him for a quick chat. She wasn't sure what to expect, but she agreed, her heart racing a little faster than usual. When she arrived at his office, he was sitting behind his desk, his usual composed demeanor in place. But today, there was a subtle change in his posture, a tension in the air that she couldn't ignore. "Hey, Emily," he said, his voice warm but with a hint of something else. "I wanted to talk to you about something important. It's been on my mind for a while." He gestured for her to sit, and Emily did, feeling a mixture of curiosity and nerves. What was this about? He leaned forward slightly, his eyes locking onto hers. You've been doing an amazing job. Seriously, the progress you've made with the project is incredible. I knew you had potential, but you've exceeded all of my expectations. Emily felt a warmth spread through her chest at his words, but there was something else in his Tonia seriousness that made her heart skip a beat. Thank you, she said, her voice steady but with a slight tremor in it. I really appreciate that. But what's this about? You seem different. Liam paused, his gaze softening. It's not just the project, he said, his voice lower now. It's about us. I've been thinking a lot about our dynamic lately, and I need to be honest with you. What started out as a professional relationship has become something more for me. And I think it's important that you know that. Emily's breath caught in her throat. She had felt something between them, but hearing him say it out loud made everything feel more real. She wasn't sure how to respond, her mind racing. Could he be feeling the same thing? Had she misread the situation? I don't want to make things awkward, Liam continued, his tone sincere. But I also don't want to hide how I feel. I care about you, Emily. More than just as an employee or a colleague. And I wanted you to know that. Emily's heart pounded in her chest as she processed his words. Was this really happening? She had known for some time that there was something between them, but hearing him admit it made her feel exposed, vulnerable. It was the last thing she had expected, and yet it felt so right. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out at first. After a moment, she took a deep breath and looked at him, her voice barely above a whisper. I care about you too, Liam, she said, her voice shaking slightly. But this is all so new, and I don't know what to do with it. We've both got a lot on our plates right now, and I don't want to complicate things. Liam nodded, his expression understanding. I get it, he said softly. But I wanted to be honest with you, because I think you deserve that. Whatever happens between us, professionally or personally, I want it to be real, and I want you to know that I'm here for you, no matter what. There was something reassuring in his words, something that made Emily feel like maybe, just maybe, she didn't have to choose between the two worlds she had been navigating. Maybe she could have both success and love. They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of their words hanging in the air. Emily couldn't deny the warmth in her chest, the way her heart fluttered every time she looked at him. She had never expected her life to take such an unexpected turn, but now, sitting across from Liam, she realized that this whatever this was the beginning of something new, something worth pursuing. Finally, she smiled, her nerves easing slightly. Thank you for being honest with me, she said. I think I'm ready to figure this out with you. Liam smiled back, his eyes lighting up with something that Emily couldn't quite name, but that made her heart swell with anticipation. Good, he said, his voice steady but warm. We'll figure it out together. One step at a time. And with that, Emily knew that whatever happened next, it was a new beginning, one that she was ready to embrace. The following days were filled with a new kind of tension for Emily. Her professional life was moving forward at full speed, with the outreach project reaching new milestones and her relationship with Liam becoming more complicated. They were working together side by side, their professional connection now tinged with something deeper, more personal. But Emily couldn't shake the feeling that things were about to get more difficult. She wasn't used to mixing business with personal feelings, and though Liam was kind and understanding, she knew that navigating this new dynamic would not be as simple as it seemed. It all came to a head one afternoon when Emily walked into the office to find an unexpected email in her inbox. It was from one of Liam's top business partners, a well-known investor who had been critical of some of their recent projects. The email was filled with harsh words, demanding that the current initiative be reevaluated and questioning the direction Liam's company was heading in. Emily felt a wave of anxiety wash over her. She knew how much this project meant to Liam, how much faith he had put into it. And now, here was someone threatening to pull the rug out from under everything. She sat down at her desk, staring at the screen, unsure of what to do. She had never been in a situation like this before. In the bakery, there were always challenges, but nothing as high stakes as this. She was suddenly faced with the reality of working in a world where decisions could affect people's livelihoods, where the pressure was constant. But Emily was no stranger to hard work. She knew what she had to do. She drafted a response to the investor, explaining their vision and the importance of the outreach project. She spoke from the heart, just like she had done when she first pitched the idea to Liam. She wasn't just defending the project, she was defending her own belief in it. When Liam walked into the office later that afternoon, Emily had just hit send on the email. She looked up at him, her heart pounding. He could see the tension on her face, and his expression softened immediately. "What happened?" he asked, sitting down beside her. Emily glanced at the email on her screen before turning to him. "We got an email from one of your investors," she said, her voice steady despite the anxiety building inside her. "They're questioning the project. They want us to reevaluate everything, and they're not happy with the direction we're taking." She paused, trying to gauge Liam's reaction. For a moment, there was silence. Liam didn't immediately respond. He looked at the email and then back at Emily, his eyes narrowing in thought. Finally, he spoke. "I knew this was coming," he said, his tone surprisingly calm. "We've been pushing boundaries, and not everyone likes it. But Emily, what you did today, responding with conviction, that's exactly what I need. You don't just follow orders. You think for yourself, and you fight for what you believe in." He gave her a small smile, one that sent warmth flooding through her chest. Emily was taken aback. She hadn't expected him to react like this. She had thought he would be upset or frustrated, but instead, he seemed proud of her. It was a small moment, but it meant everything to her. "Thank you," she said quietly, her voice almost a whisper. "I wasn't sure what to do. But I really believe in this project, and I didn't want to let it go without a fight." Liam leaned back in his chair, his gaze intense yet filled with something softer admiration. "I'm glad you're with me on this," he said. "It means a lot to me, Emily. I didn't hire you just for your skills. I hired you because I knew you had the courage to stand up for what's right. That's what makes you different." He paused, his voice taking on a more serious tone. "I don't say this lightly, but you're not just part of this team, you're a leader in it. And I'm not the only one who sees that." Emily's heart swelled at his words. For the first time, she truly believed it. She wasn't just a small-town girl in a big city anymore. She was part of something meaningful, something bigger than herself. She had come into this job unsure of her place, unsure if she could really make a difference. But now, standing beside Liam, she knew that she was exactly where she was supposed to be. The next few days were filled with late meetings and tense calls, but Emily never wavered. With Liam by her side, she found herself more confident than ever. The investors' concerns were eventually addressed, and the project moved forward, stronger than before. Emily had proven not only to the world around her but to herself that she could handle the pressure, that she could lead. As the project gained more traction, so did Emily's relationship with Liam. They were no longer just colleagues, they were partners in every sense of the word. But with every passing day, Emily couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more, something unspoken between them. She wondered if Liam felt it too, or if it was just her. But for now, she decided to focus on the work. After all, there was plenty of time for everything else to unfold. As the weeks passed, Emily continued to excel at Parker Enterprises. The outreach project was becoming a huge success, and her ideas were gaining traction within the company. She was no longer just the quiet newcomer, she was now an integral part of the team, someone who could be relied upon. The trust Liam had placed in her seemed to be paying off, and for the first time in her life, Emily felt like she was exactly where she was meant to be. But despite all of her professional success, there was still an undercurrent of uncertainty in her personal life. Her feelings for Liam were growing stronger, and the closer they became, the more complicated everything seemed. One evening, after a long day of meetings, Liam invited Emily to a charity gala he was hosting. It was an important event, one that would bring together many of the company's top investors and clients. Emily was hesitant at first. She didn't feel like she belonged in that world. She was still the girl who had worked in a bakery just a few months ago. But Liam reassured her, telling her that she deserved to be there, that her work had earned her a place in this circle. So, she agreed, though she couldn't shake the feeling that she was about to step into a world that was far beyond her. The night of the gala arrived, and Emily stood in front of her mirror, staring at the elegant dress Liam had helped her pick out. She looked different, more polished, more confident. She still couldn't fully believe how much her life had changed in such a short time. The girl who had once felt invisible was now walking into a high-profile event, her name on the guest list alongside CEOs, investors, and socialites. She took a deep breath and stepped into the car that would take her to the event. As they drove through the city, Emily couldn't help but feel a mixture of excitement and nervousness. What would tonight hold? Was she really ready for this world? When she arrived at the venue, Emily's breath caught in her throat. The ballroom was breathtaking. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, casting a soft, golden light across the room. The guests were dressed in their finest attire, laughing and talking as they sipped champagne. Emily felt a wave of anxiety wash over her. She wasn't sure if she belonged here. But as she looked around the room, she spotted Liam standing by the stage, greeting guests with his usual charm. He caught her eye and smiled, his presence immediately putting her at ease. She walked over to him, feeling a sense of calm wash over her. "I'm glad you made it," Liam said, his voice warm as he took her hand in his. "You look stunning, Emily." She blushed, feeling a flutter in her chest at the compliment. She hadn't realized how much she craved his approval, but now it was clear how much his opinion meant to her. "Thank you," she said softly, smiling up at him. "This place is incredible. I don't think I've ever been to an event like this before." Liam laughed, his hand still gently holding hers. "You're doing great," he said, his eyes twinkling with something more than just the professional connection they had shared up until now. "Just be yourself. You've earned your place here, Emily. Don't let anyone make you feel otherwise." His words were reassuring, and for the first time that evening, Emily felt like she truly belonged. She wasn't just here because Liam had invited her, she was here because she had worked hard for it. The night continued with laughter, conversations, and clinking glasses. Emily found herself talking to some of the guests, feeling more comfortable than she ever thought she would. She was no longer the outsider, the girl who didn't belong. She was an equal, a participant in this world. Liam was always nearby, his presence steady and supportive, but there was something different about the way he looked at her tonight. It wasn't just admiration for her work, it was something deeper, something more personal. As the night came to a close, Liam took Emily aside for a private conversation. They stepped out onto the balcony, the cool evening air a stark contrast to the warmth of the ballroom. Liam turned to her, his expression serious. "There's something I've been wanting to tell you," he began, his voice softer than usual. Emily felt her heart race. Was he going to say what she thought he might say? Before she could respond, Liam continued, "Emily, I've been thinking a lot about us, about everything we've been through. And I want you to know that I care about you. Not just as my colleague, not just as the person who's helped me build this company. I care about you, about who you are, about your dreams, about everything." Emily's breath caught in her throat. For a moment, everything else seemed to disappear. It was just the two of them, standing under the stars, in a moment that felt so real, so raw. She could feel her heart pounding in her chest as she looked into Liam's eyes, realizing that this wasn't just about business anymore. This was something real, something worth fighting for. "I care about you too," she whispered, the words finally spilling out. "More than I ever thought I could." She didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in a long time, she felt sure of one thing: whatever happened next, she wasn't alone. And in that moment, Emily knew that her life had changed in ways she hadn't even begun to understand. The professional success, the personal growth, it all felt like it was leading her somewhere beautiful, somewhere unexpected, and with Liam by her side, she was ready to see where this new journey would take her. In the weeks that followed, Emily and Liam grew closer, both professionally and personally. They worked side by side, building the company, making tough decisions, and seeing the fruits of their labor pay off. The outreach project continued to gain momentum, and Emily's leadership skills were starting to be recognized by everyone around her. But it wasn't just the work that had changed her. Her relationship with Liam was blossoming into something deeper, something more significant than either of them had anticipated. The more time they spent together, the more Emily realized how much she had come to care for him. He wasn't just the man who had given her a chance, he was the one who had shown her what it meant to believe in herself. And he cared about her, not just as a colleague or a business partner, but as a person. She had never felt more supported, more seen, and for the first time in her life, she felt like she wasn't alone in the world. One evening, after a particularly challenging week, Emily found herself sitting with Liam in his office. The room was quiet, the city lights outside casting a soft glow on the walls. They had just wrapped up a meeting with investors, and while the night had been long, Emily felt a sense of accomplishment she had never known before. "You did great today," Liam said, breaking the silence. He was sitting across from her, his eyes warm and sincere. "I'm proud of how far you've come. The project, the company, it's all thriving because of you." Emily smiled, her heart swelling at his praise. She had worked so hard to prove herself, but hearing him acknowledge her efforts meant more than anything. "Thank you," she replied, her voice soft. "I couldn't have done it without you. You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself." There was a moment of silence between them, and then Emily looked up, meeting Liam's gaze. She knew that what they shared was real now. It wasn't just the success of the project or the work they had accomplished, it was the connection they had built, the trust, and the growing feelings between them. Liam leaned forward, his expression more serious now. "I want you to know something, Emily," he said, his voice steady. "I've been thinking about us a lot, about how this has all unfolded. I'm not just proud of the work we've done. I'm proud of what we've built together, you and I. I care about you more than just as a colleague or a business partner." Emily's heart skipped a beat. She had known it was coming, but hearing him say it out loud felt like a dream come true. "I care about you too," Emily whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "More than I ever thought I could." The words hung in the air between them, and for a moment, everything else seemed to fade away. There was no doubt now what they had was real. It wasn't just about business, it was about something deeper. Something meaningful. Liam reached out, taking her hand gently in his. "I know this might be unexpected, but I want you to know that I'm here, Emily. Whatever happens, I'm here with you." His words were simple, but they meant everything. Emily smiled, feeling her heart swell with warmth. She had spent so much time searching for a place where she belonged, and now she had found it. Not just in her work, but in Liam. As they sat there, hands entwined, Emily knew that her life had changed in ways she couldn't have imagined. From the bakery to this moment, she had grown into someone more confident, more capable. But most importantly, she had found someone who truly saw her, who believed in her, and who cared for her deeply. The future was still uncertain, but for the first time, Emily felt ready to face whatever came next. She had Liam by her side, and together, they had built something strong. It wasn't just a company or a project, it was a partnership, a connection, and a love that had grown in the most unexpected of places. And as Emily and Liam sat together, she realized that sometimes, the best things in life came from taking a chance, stepping into the unknown, and believing in the possibilities that awaited. With him, she knew she had everything she needed to face whatever the future held, and she couldn't wait to see what that future would look like.